Welcome to Front Office Pros. Today, we're going to be talking about our updated top 24 safety rankings with tiers, including rookies. If you haven't had a chance, go ahead and check out our other episodes where we covered the rest of the IDP positions and offense.
Hike!
All right, Joe, so why don't you start us off? Who do you got in tier number one?
All right, Steve. At the number one safety spot, I've got Kyle Hamilton. At number two, Antoine Winfield Jr. And at number three, Derwin James.
All right, so I'm close to you, but you should have just kept on going, all right? So at number one, I've got Kyle Hamilton. Number two, Antoine Winfield. Number three, Derwin James. Number four, Brian Branch. And number five, Jessie Bates.
Wow, five guys.
Five guys, Joe. So you and I have the
You
consensus.
get burgers and fries with that?
Maybe at McDonald's I do.
What about five guys? That's what I'm saying.
Well, I don't know. McDonald's got a new meal deal, $5, and I get a cheeseburger, a hamburger, a fries, and a drink. Seems like a good deal.
Oh, I had no idea.
Got to stay up with the times, Joe. But we're here to talk about football, and the number one guy that you and I both have here is safety Kyle Hamilton. What was your reasoning there?
Yeah, I just really like how he came on last year. Kind of had that breakout season after kind of being disappointing before, but just the different ways that the Baltimore Ravens were utilizing this guy and blitz, getting him closer to line of scrimmage. He's getting sacks, forcing fumbles. As long as they continue to use him like that, and with his youth, I just think he is the number one guy.
Guy was an all-pro talent coming in from the draft out of Notre Dame. And I think in hindsight, I may not have rated him this high. I had him as the number one prospect because I just thought he was such a blue chip player, even though it's not a premier position in fantasy league. Safety is kind of a afterthought, I'd say, even in the IDP world. Mostly, those DBs don't get a lot of love. But they started using Hamilton, I think, the right way going forward. Now, it will be interesting. Mike McDonald leaves. Now he's the Seattle Seahawks head coach. So there is a change in defensive philosophy. Don't think it'll change all that much for Hamilton, but you never know.
Yeah, I think overall the Baltimore Ravens philosophy should stay same or relatively similar. So hopefully with the strides that he made last year, hopefully they just continue to utilize him the way they were doing it last year, to allow him to be that dominant IDP player that you were excited for coming out of college.
Do you think it's possible that he could have even more opportunities with Patrick Queen no longer there? I mean, obviously he had a career year. Could they be using Hamilton more on those blitzes? Could he be getting more tackles for loss and tackles?
It definitely is possible. I guess I'd just be curious to see how they're bringing Trenton Simpson along. I know that he's a guy that they were excited, and basically, once they got him, the writing was on the wall for Patrick Queen to be gone from this Ravens defense, and that was kind of going to be the predecessor. So depending on how he's coming along and how much confidence they have him, there definitely could be an increase. But Trenton Simpson could also just be that increased guy alongside Roquan as well.
Now, of these players, the only one that really had a major situation change since our last episode for our safety rankings was Antoine Winfield. He was franchise tagged before. He now signs that long-term deal with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I then, as a result, bumped him from 2 to 3. I had Derwin James 2, Winfield 3. I flip-flopped them. You had Winfield there before because if I remember, you weren't all that concerned. You thought that something was going to get done. You were right, and ultimately it did. And I think he's got the youth. I mean, he had a career year. I mean, you could have really argued. And, some people probably throw tomatoes at me. I think he honestly, you could throw a case that he was the defensive player of the year last year. The guy was an absolute just wrecking ball out there. He was a phenomenal player for the Bucs. Now, the Bucs defense was not known to being that great last year, but without that guy, they would have been in shambles, in my view.
Oh, yeah, they definitely would have. I mean, like you said, it wasn't they didn't have a good year overall defensively, but he was definitely the shining star of the defense, especially, with a guy like Devin White decreasing his play, who's now gone. So, I mean, really outside of, Levante David, somebody's going to have to make tackles on this defense. And Winfield just flew around the defense last year and made a bunch of plays, and I don't see much changing for him.
A real argument could be made that Winfield. I don't think it would be nuts if people had Winfield higher than Hamilton, just because of how good Winfield has been. But Hamilton is younger. He's got that first round capital, so I think most people would have Hamilton as the consensus one.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the consensus is for Hamilton to be number one. A lot of it, I think, is because he is a little bit younger. But like you said, though, I mean, it's really hard to argue whether you go with, Hamilton or Winfield Jr., honestly.
So one other guy I'd like to talk about here is Brian Branch. I have him higher than you do. I'm sure he'll be coming, very soon for you. I think when it comes to Branch, I think why I feel like he was worth it to be in there is he missed a few games last year. Had he not missed those games, we're probably talking about a point value similar to what the Derwin James, Hamilton, and Winfield scored. So I feel like Brian Branch, he's got the youth on his side. Had a really impressive rookie campaign. CJ Gardner-Johnson no longer in Detroit. Does he, it'd be curious to see how they end up using him. The question was coming out of college, is he going to be the star position? Is he going to be safety? Is he kind of going to be used all over the place? I didn't know what would happen to him, but he's exceeded my expectations as rookie year.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he played really well, like you said. No more CJ Gardner-Johnson. Should just open up more opportunities for him because they kind of play a similar style and a similar role for the defense. But I just like the way that the Lions just kind of let him play freely, I thought, and the interceptions he was making and some of those plays on the ball he was making. If he keeps doing that, he's going to definitely deserve to be in the tier 1.
Are you enjoying this episode right now? Well, if you are, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel or go ahead and follow us over at Spotify and Apple under the podcast name, The Salary Cap Show. If you're interested in any trade requests, head over to our X where we have a trade inquiry form where you can fill out and give us all the details you need to help us give you the best advice to make those moves. All right, Joe, so who do you got in tier number 2?
Yeah, so I mean, ironically enough, Steve, I've got the same top 5 guys. I just don't have them in tier 1. So at 4, I've got Brian Branch. 5, Jessie Bates. 6, Xavier McKinney. 7's Cole Bishop. 8, Tyler Nubin. And at 9, Jaquan Brisker.
Interesting. All right, at number 6, I've got Jaquan Brisker. 7, Julian Love. 8, Kyle Duggar. 9, Minkah Fitzpatrick. And 10, Xavier McKinney. Man, I got to tell you. Joe likes this DB rookie class. I'll tell you what, he likes these rookie DBs in a year where this defensive class wasn't all that great. That doesn't matter to Joe Sheffield over there. So I like both of those guys. We'll start there. So let's talk about Cole Bishop first. What made you put Cole Bishop here in this tier 2?
Yeah, I really like Cole Bishop. I think he went to the perfect spot with the Buffalo Bills. Obviously, no more Jordan Poyer. Micah Hyde, we'll see if they get something done in the training camp here. He did say if he is going to play and not retire, it'd be for the Buffalo Bills. So, but at the moment, lost both of those guys. Somebody's got to make plays for safety, and they made it a point to draft Cole Bishop. And I just like the physicality he brings. He's also just a playmaker, and I think he's going to be a great fit for the Bills, and expect him to have a solid rookie year.
You got to remember, the Buffalo Bills, when they signed Jordan Poyer, he was a nobody.
Right.
Nobody knew who he was. He was an afterthought in the Cleveland Browns. Came to Buffalo and he, excelled, did wonders for his career. Even Micah Hyde. Micah Hyde was good in Green Bay. Never was as good as he was when he was in Buffalo. Buffalo, it completely changed. And to me, I give that credit to Sean McDermott. Sean McDermott is a very good defensive mind in this league, although I know you have your chops against him. But, that's a different podcast.
I mean, it's not for how he runs the defense. It's just whether or not he's a good head coach. I think that's to be seen.
Yeah, right. No, I know. but I'll tell you what, though. He knows how to get the most out of a safety. So I totally I will be saying him a little bit later, but I totally understand why you have it, because we've seen McDermott has done, a lot, really diamonds in the rough when it comes to Poyer and Hyde. So if he did that with them, which I think both of them did not have the draft capital that Bishop did, watch out for Bishop.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they the draft capital and everything, they got confidence in this guy, and from what I understand, like, he's a smart, heady player, and like I said, I think he's obviously gonna come out and have a good rookie season.
Now, as for Nubin, I was a big Nubin guy, and I think that Nubin, he has it in between the ears, which to me is the most important aspect for a safety.
Yeah,
He's a great ball hawk. He knows, which helps. And he goes in probably, I think, as the starter. I mean, Xavier McKinney is no longer there. He could step right in. So I think Nubin, and he's a golden gopher, which Minnesota safeties, and we talked about Antoine Winfield, right? I mean, there are just some programs that know how to develop players. Look at the Iowa tight ends. Iowa Hawkeye tight ends, time and time again, have done very, very well. So to me, Ohio State Buckeye receivers and LSU receivers, right? You've seen these are like wide receiver factories. So I think Nubin's going to be the next guy in the Golden Gopher, history here that I think could do really well. I like him a lot.
Yeah, I do too. And like you said, I think just his smarts and instincts as a safety, and he's going over to the Giants. Like you said, Xavier McKinney is no longer, he moved on to Green Bay. So I like you said, I expect Nubin to be the starter for the Giants. And if he's able to continue to make those plays that he was able to do in college, as far as, making the plays on the ball with the pass deflections, getting interceptions, and he's a pretty for sure tackler as well. I think he's got a pretty good ceiling.
And no real dominant linebackers either. I mean, you have Bobby Okereke, but other than that, I mean, I think they start Micah McFadden. That's going to help him possibly have a higher tackle floor.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, McKinney just came off a really good year there with the Giants, and they didn't want to pay him. So, not to say that Nubin's going to come right in there and perform like he did last year, but the opportunity is definitely there for him, like you said, with the tackles and everything else.
So two guys I want to talk about. I'll start with Jessie Bates first. Guy I had in tier 1, you had him in tier 2. I felt like he was deserving to be in tier 1 because if I look at the stats and what Jessie Bates has been able to do, it's been pretty similar to Derwin James, and they're roughly the same age. So other than what's Jessie Bates going to do with Raheem Morris as the more leading the defense, that would probably be the one aspect to say he had a resurgent year. I'll say it that way with the Falcons in this past season. So I could see maybe the trepidation to say, hey, there's a different environment. How's he going to look? But his stats are very similar to Derwin James. So if I put Derwin James there, I felt like he was deserving as well.
The difference to me between the two, why I stopped at Derwin James, was just simply because Derwin James has 3 straight years where he's got 100+ tackles. And outside of last year, Jessie Bates hadn't been able to, he got close to 100, but he hadn't been able to reach or eclipse it. So that the fact that just the consistency with the tackle numbers and everything else for Derwin James, really had me stop at tier 1 right there.
Well, Derwin James is more of a strong safety, where I feel like Jessie Bates is more of a deep safety or more of a free safety.
Right.
Which you would say most of the time strong safeties tend to be better because they've got the tackle floor, where free safeties are more reliant on those big plays, those picks, those pass deflections.
That's the thing. I mean, that's why Jessie Bates had a resurgent year last year. He was really able to. He had 6 interceptions and 11 pass deflections.
There you go.
I mean, that was a big part. But I guess my concern is, what if he doesn't have that? Where, like you said, the strong safeties, they tend to play in the box more closer to the ball, similar to the nickel corners, right? They got more opportunities to make tackles and fumbles and just everything else because they are closer to the ball.
One other guy I want to talk about that we were both having the same tier, but I struggled with, was Xavier McKinney. I almost put him higher, But the thing is to me, the contract is very deceiving. Although he signed a 4-year contract with the Packers, the way that the Packers sign players, which I don't
Another Josh
understand.
Jacobs contract.
Another Josh Jacobs contract where it's a 4-year deal, but they can get out of it after year one. I don't understand. In a world of the NFLPA and players can go wherever they want. I mean, maybe they're like, we don't care. Packers are giving me the most amount of money. I'll bet on myself and I'll get that money. But as far as security wise goes, if McKinney has a bad year, Packers are going to say, see you later.
Yeah, but I think some players don't mind the opportunity because if they know if they do play well, and like you said, they are betting on themselves, that they can go somewhere else and get a bag too. And it's next year, and they don't have to wait 4 years. And all these players know salary cap's going up every year, so teams have more money to spend. So it's just one of those things. But it's interesting. It's a little risky for both Jacobs and McKinney just because these are two positions that the NFL has been showing that they don't want to invest in. I mean, look at Justin Simmons is still on the market, and he's been one of the top safeties, in the league. It could just be a case where he's looking to have too much money, and no team wants to give him what he's asking for, and he's just staying out there. But obviously, this year we saw a ton of safeties be cut from teams.
So, Joe, let's head over to tier 3. What do you got there?
All right, in tier 3 at number 10, I've got Julian Love. At 11, Jevon Holland. 12, Kamren Curl. 13, Kyle Duggar. 14, Minkah Fitzpatrick.
All right, at number 11, I've got Budda Baker. Number 12, Camryn Bynum. Number 13, Tyler Nubin. And number 14, Cole Bishop. So this is where you and I are starting to veer away from each other. We were kind of talking about the same players in the first 2 tiers. Now we're starting to have a little separation. Let's talk about Minkah Fitzpatrick, a guy who I have a lot higher than you. I've got him at 9. You got him at 14. So, I mean, in theory, I have him at low end tier 2. You have him at low end tier 3, almost going to tier 4. To me, he had a down year last year, and a lot of it was due to injury. Other than last year, you could say that he's done very well. Do you feel he's just a name, or you feel that what happened last year is a sign of things to come? What made you put him in this tier?
Yeah, honestly, he was one of the toughest players that I had issue with just because I think I'm a little concerned with the injury and, is this a sign of things to come where he's not going to play a full season, even though when he has been healthy, he's been really good. And that's kind of why I even have him here. I was honestly thinking about putting him even lower, but I also didn't want to overreact too much by the injury riddled season last year that his stats when he played was still pretty good. And then obviously the years prior were really good, without the injury. So I was trying not to just discount the fact that he had such a down year last year due to the injury. So that's kind of why I stuck him here at 14 and didn't move him down lower even.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely a tougher guy. I mean, he's still relatively young. I mean, so that's where to me it's like 1 year. I feel like you can't just throw it out just based on 1 year.
Yeah, that's why, like I said, I was trying not to overreact too much because I honestly, before I had kind of looked at his stats and stuff, like I just remembered him not doing well, so I was planning on having him pretty low. But then just looking, when he did play and then what he was doing years prior, I was like, all right, that's not too fair. But
Well, I mean, he's 27 years old. I mean, that's where I feel like, yes, he had a bad year last year, but I don't know if that's enough for me to. I mean, the guy's he's the type of player that for the other teams, they have to say, we need to know where Minkah Fitzpatrick is on the field because he can have that type of impact. So
yeah,
I can't say that about other players. It wasn't so much last year. So I'm not. I just don't want to. I have to see. Until he shows me that the wheels falling off, which could be this upcoming year. If he were to say, okay, let's say he has another down year, now it becomes a pattern, and he might have hit the cliff.
right. Which I agree. Which is why I have him. I feel like I got him in a respectable spot, 2-3 at number 14, versus putting him lower, which I had considered.
Now, another guy I think that fits the same mold is Budda Baker. Budda Baker only played 12 games last year, but he's been a guy who, you know, notoriously has been very, very good. Besides this past season, especially in our league, he's been one of the top safeties. Year in, year out. I mean, he's cracking of almost over 100 tackles, almost every year. So, what made you not include Budda Baker yet? I'm assuming he's going to be in your top 24. But I think he's a guy who. And here's the other thing too: Cardinals defense. Who did Budda Baker have to play around him? Not really that many. I think Cardinals should be better. I think the team overall should be better, whereas they were kind of a walking mat, other than if you were the Dallas Cowboys last year.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Other than the Cowboys, they did get walked over. Yeah, I think it is fair. I mean, he missed some games here before last year in 2022. I know it was a couple, but I don't know. I just feel like some of these guys, I was a little concerned with injury, but there's no doubt when he did play those 12 games last year, like even he still had 80 tackles in the 12 games. So obviously, if he played 5 more games, he's easily over 100 tackles. And he's a guy that's a playmaker as well. So I do have him. I just put some other guys ahead of him.
All right, Joe. So who do you got in tier number 4?
All right, in tier 4 at 15, I've got Jeremy Chinn. At 16, I've got Justin Reed. 17, CJ Gardner-Johnson. 18, Josh Metellus. And at 19, Budda Baker.
Oh, my. All right. At number 15, I've got Grant Talbot. 16, Talanoa Hufanga. 17, Jalen Thompson. 18, Jevon Holland. 19, Jalen Petrie. And number 20, Kamren Curl. I was thinking that you and I could be quite different, so I refrained from talking further in tier 3, and boy, am I glad that I did, because there's some guys I don't even have in my top 24 that you've got here, so this is going to be interesting. So let's first talk about Kamren Curl. I've got him at number 20. You got him, pretty far up. You got him at number 12. Pretty big disparity. I guess it's only one tier. You must really like his spot with the Rams, because he was a guy who people were really excited about with the Commanders. I feel like he never really materialized. He signed a 2-year deal with the Rams, which is basically is a 1-year prove-it deal that they can get out in the second. So I don't know how much security the guy has long term. So, I thought I definitely moved him up because I had him in tier 5 before. Now I have him as a tier 4 player. But you must like him quite a bit, because you had him jump pretty high.
Yeah, I do like him quite a bit, and I like his landing spot with the Rams. I thought he was he always had decent numbers, with the Commanders. But I'm curious to see, we've seen safeties have pretty good success in LA. So I think he's got an opportunity to improve, but he had 115 tackles last year, 5 pass deflections. So he was pretty solid, but I think maybe with a different defensive system there with the Rams, maybe he could take a next step forward.
Now, another guy that you and I are pretty distant on is Jevon Holland. I got him at 18. You've got him up at 11. Both a tier swap. You've got him. I got him tier 4. You've got him tier 3. My thing was, when I looked at him, I didn't really think that. I mean, he's a free safety type, and honestly, looking at his numbers, I didn't think were all that impressive, to be honest with you. And not to mention, he isn't a prove-it deal. I don't believe he has signed a long-term deal with the Dolphins, so he's going to be a free agent. So we don't know where he's going to go. What ultimately had you? I think you moved Holland up since our most recent episode on safety rankings, because I don't think you had him as high last time.
Yeah, I don't think I had him this. I mean, I think I was pretty high on him, but maybe not this high. But I mean, he's still a young player at 24 years old, and I don't think I'm not expecting this Dolphins defense to be that good. And I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities for him to get involved, with tackles and everything else. But I mean, he only played 12 games last year, injury shortened season, but he had 74 tackles, was able to get an interception with 4 pass deflections. When he played 17 full games in 2022, he had 96 tackles, so around the 100 tackle mark, a couple of interceptions, and 7 pass deflections. In our league, he averaged 17 fantasy points a game, which is pretty good. So if he's able to stay on the field and maybe perhaps with some more opportunities, I think he's deserving to be where I have him.
This feels like a youth play to me. This feels like he's young.
24.
He's 24. No, I get that, and this is Dynasty, so I understand. But he just feels kind of blah to me.
Well, that's okay. That's what you think.
You got
a lot of older guys higher than him.
Oh boy. Well, I mean, okay. I had Camryn Bynum. You don't even have Camryn Bynum yet. Camryn Bynum was a stud last year.
I couldn't. I'm very surprised because I had him pretty high last time, and you gave me a lot of crap for that. I'm not even sure that you had him in your top 24.
No, I did. I definitely did.
I'm not so sure you did because you gave me 100%. Well, if you did, you had him way lower.
No. I had 137 tackles.
No, I know, but you were like, well, it's only 1 year. You could just be a 1 year wonder, and
he could.
He could. And so I dropped him. He's the guy. I do have him in my top 24.
I had him at 11 last time, and now I have him at 12.
Okay, so you were consistent.
Yeah, you dropped him like a rock.
I did, yeah.
Even more so ahead of Metellus. Metellus is a 1 year winner too, but he's the ultimate chess piece, though. Guy who moves around, and that's what I like about him.
See, that's the thing. I like the promise of Josh Metellus and the way.
He's a Michigan guy. That's all. That's cut to the crap.
He's the opportunity.
Yeah. Michigan. That's what that is. So talk to me about Jeremy Chinn. I don't have him in my top 24. I'll be straight with you on that. I had him last time in tier 5. I opted to take him out because I'm concerned by all the linebackers. I just don't know. I mean, this guy is primarily strong safety. I believe he's more known for his tackles. There was a thought that he would basically be better as a converted linebacker. Now, he opted to go to Washington, took less money to go play with them. So you feel that, I know you're not a big fan of him as a head coach, but as a defensive coordinator, you feel that Dan Quinn might have a role in mind for him.
Yeah, I think he does. And, I think perhaps a change of scenery could be good for Jeremy Chinn. I mean, this is a guy that was supposed to be, a really good player coming out of college. He showed some promise out of the gates at Carolina, but then he's kind of fallen off the last couple of years. So I'm just curious to see if a change of scenery, can provide that resurgence. Getting with a guy like Dan Quinn, a good defensive mind, like you mentioned, I got my question as far as head coach goes, but there's no doubt that he's been pretty good defensive coordinator. And curious to see if they, able to move him around and create some creative ways to use this guy. I mean, he's athletic and young. Jeremy Chinn should be a good player.
It just blows my mind, though, because he's been an absolute dud.
I know, but I think the change of scenery just makes a big difference.
But you would rather have him over Budda Baker, who's been an established guy. I know Budda Baker's old, but Harrison Smith is still playing at a high level, and he's like 34 years old.
He wasn't very good last year, Steve. I had him.
I get that, but he was doing well at 33, 32. You signed him because you thought he'd keep going. Okay, father time caught up with him. But still, though, he's 34 years old. I mean, so Budda Baker's got a lot more tread left on the tire.
Budda Baker. I'm just nervous with the injuries with Budda Baker. They rack up a little bit, and it's a lot of those soft tissue stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
And he didn't go to Michigan, so
injuries scare me. Jeremy Chinn didn't go to Michigan.
No, I know he did. All right, so who do you got in the final tier number 5?
All right, in tier 5, Steve, at number 20, I've got Ifeatu Melifonwu, 21, Grant Delpit, 22, Jevon Bullard, 23, Reed Blankenship, and at 24, Kamren Bynum.
Okay, at least you put some respect to his name. All right, number 21, I got Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, 22, Marcus Williams, 23, Josh Metellus, and 24, Reed Blankenship. Now, one guy I had real problems with was Reed Blankenship. A guy who, we don't know what's going to happen with Wow, I'm having like a brain
Cooper
fart
DeJean.
here. There it is. Yeah, Cooper DeJean. We don't know what's going to happen with Cooper DeJean, and I almost wonder if Cooper DeJean is going to take over and be the because Reed Blankenship. I mean, he's a guy who was a late round pick, filled in really well. I just wonder. I don't know. He was a tough one for me. I don't know. What did you think?
Yeah, trust me. He had a really good year last year. That's why when he got the chance, and right now depth chart shows him got him pegged as a starter. I felt like I couldn't ignore what he did and hope maybe maybe the Eagles don't either, but it's like they did draft Cooper DeJean and spent decent draft capital on him. Like you said, Blankenship is just a late round pick and he happened to perform. So I am curious to see what they do, but I think if Blankenship is able to hold that starting role, he definitely deserves to be in this top 24.
Yeah, well, I mean, if he does, I think he did. I agree with you, but I think it is one of the things where they drafted a lot of secondary, the Eagles did, and they're talking about, there's a possibility, because you've got all those corners there. Not everybody can play corner.
Right.
And then on top of that, you're talking about Bradbury. They're talking about him possibly transitioning over to safety. So it's like, I don't know. I'm just curious how that room is all going to shake out. Not everybody can start.
Yeah, I am as well. I mean, like you said, that secondary was a big weak spot for them. They really invested a lot in it. Obviously, even bringing back C.J. Gardner-Johnson, and then, like you said, all the guys that they've drafted, even on top of Cooper DeJean. So it is going to be interesting to see how that all shakes out in that secondary.
Now, I'll talk about one guy that you didn't have and I'm shocked about, but we'll hold that for now. Ifeatu Melifonwu. That could be a surpriser for Ifeatu. Sorry, I see you looked at his.
No, I didn't look at the phonetic spelling. I just.
Oh, you didn't? Okay. Well, anyways, you're doing a great job completing my sentences. I appreciate that. So what made you put Melifonwu here? I did think that in the times where he did start, he showed a lot of flash. Came in as a corner, I believe. Now transitioned to more of a safety for the Lions. I think he's got. It's interesting because his brother was drafted by the Raiders. Never really materialized into a really good player. So, but talk about this guy. What do you like about him?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, he really. I think it was like the last 3 games of last year that he was able to start, and man, he just really came on and burst onto the scene. He was able to get 3 sacks. He's got had a couple of interceptions, 8 pass deflections, and I think if he's able to get more playing time, and I think he's got a chance to have a starting role on this defense. And if he does, just the way that they were utilizing him, if they continue to blitz him, and that's where he was having a ton of success making plays at the line of scrimmage, sacking quarterbacks, creating the fumbles. I just think he's got a real opportunity for more snaps, and if he's able to continue to bank on what he was able to do the last 3 games, I think he's got a chance to be somebody that is under the radar. Not too many people know about. I mean, he came from Syracuse in college. So, and like you said, he was coming out as a corner. They transitioned him to safety, but I was impressed what he did at the end of the year. And I think if he's able to improve upon that, he could kind of burst onto the scene here.
So one guy I'm absolutely shocked that you don't have in your top 24 is a guy who I've heard you've loved in the past, and that's Talanoa Hufanga. You rave about the hair flowing and you see the impact he's having on the field. He's a young guy. How do you not have him in your top 24? You supposedly love this guy.
I do. And at the end of the day, he was in consideration. It's not like I just completely ignored him. I put thought into it. I just turned out I liked the other guys more. And he is coming off an injury. Curious to see how he does. This could affect him this immediate year. We'll see. But Hufanga, I mean, I still like the guy, even though I don't necessarily have him in my top 24. He's still a guy that I like to watch. And like you said, he's got the hair flowing out of his helmet and just flies around. But yeah, at the end of the day,
that one shocked me. I just know he's one of your guys, so I just am surprised to see that he didn't make the cut.
Yeah. Yeah, I liked other guys more and just couldn't justify it. Trust me, I think I had him on there, and then it was just like I think I would have been leaving out a guy like Reed Blankenship, and I'm just like with the opportunity that he could have if he starts, but that would be an easy swap for me if say like
I agree.
You know what I mean? So
yeah, absolutely. So that does it for our updated top 24 safety rankings with tiers, including rookies, although Joe included more rookies than I did, and they were much higher. He really likes this class. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time.